Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Shevuot. We are up to Perek Vav Mishnah Zayin. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'ilui Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai, Eliyahu ben Burucha Israelov, Chana ben Miriam, Sason ben Ryan, Yoshua ben Shifra, Menuchatam began Eden, Amen. And להבדיל בין חיים לחיים, ולרפואה שלמה דניאל שלום בן רוזה, בתוך שאר חולי ישראל, עד החלמה מהרה, בנימין או ציון חי בן דבורה. A lender who takes security for a loan, meaning he takes an item of value from the borrower as a guarantee for the loan. Such an object is known as a mashkon, a security. He is considered a paid shomer, a shomer sachar for that item. Therefore, if it is stolen or lost, he must pay the borrower its value. As the Mishnah Bamitzia, chapter 6, Mishnah 7 says, if the security is worth the same amount as the loan is considered paid up. If it is worth more than the loan, the lender must pay the difference to the borrower. If it is worth less than the loan, the borrower must pay the difference to the lender. The Mishnah discusses these cases in regard to oaths. Someone lends a person money on security, and the security was lost or stolen, and they now disagree about how much the security was worth. The Mishnah will now present 4 cases and state the law for each of them. The first case, Amar lo sela hilviticha alav v'shekel haya shaveh. If the lender says to the borrower, I lent you a sela on it, and the security was worth only a shekel, half of a sela, so you still owe me a shekel. The lender is responsible for the loss of the security, and he deducts its value from the amount of the loan. After doing so, he asks for payment for what is left on the loan, and there are 2 shekels in a sela, therefore he says, you still owe me 1 shekel. And the borrower replies, not so. Rather, you lent me a sela on it, and it was worth the entire sela, so I owe you nothing. Patur, the borrower is not obligated to swear an oath that it was worth the full sela, because he denies owing the lender anything. The borrower is saying in effect that the debt is completely paid, since the lost security was worth as much as the loan. It is now up to the lender to prove that the security was worth less than the amount of the loan. However, since the lender was considered a paid shomer for the security, he must swear the oath that any shomer must swear, an oath that he did not keep the object for himself. This is an oath that the rabbis required even from a shomer who pays for a lost item. The second case of the Mishnah, if the lender says to the borrower, I lent you a sela on it and the security was worth only a shekel, so you still owe me a shekel, which is equal to 2 dinars. And the borrower replies, not so, rather you lent me a sela on it, and the security was worth 3 dinars, so I now owe you only 1 dinar, not 2. There are 2 dinars in a shekel and 2 shekels in a sela, so a sela is worth 4 dinars. Chayav, the borrower is obligated to swear an oath that the security was worth 3 dinars, because he admits that he still owes part of the claim. The lender claims that the borrower still owes him 2 dinars, while the borrower admits that he owes 1. Since he admits part of the lender's claim, he must swear an oath that the security was worth 3, and he only owes 1 dinar. In addition to the borrower swearing, the lender must also swear that the item of security is no longer in his possession, as it says in Baba Metzia, page 35a. Now, in these previous 2 cases, the lender claimed that the security was worth less than the amount of the loan, so the borrower still owed him the difference. In the next 2 cases, the borrower demands money from the lender, claiming that the security was worth more than the loan, so that he is now owed the difference. The third case, if the borrower said to the lender, you lent me a sela on it, and the security was worth 2 selas, so now you owe me the extra sela. And the lender replies, not so, rather I lent you a sela on it and it was worth only a sela, so I owe you nothing. Patur, the lender is not obligated to swear that the security was worth only a sela, because he denies owing anything. It is now up to the borrower to prove that the security was worth more than the loan. The fourth case, if the borrower said to the lender, you lent me a sela on it, and the security was worth 2 selas, so now you owe me the extra sela, which is 4 dinars. And the lender replies, not so, rather I lent you a sela on it, and the security was worth 5 dinars, so I now owe you 1 dinar, not 4. Chayav, the lender is obligated to swear that the security was worth 5 dinars because he admits to owing part of the claim. The borrower claims that the lender owes him a sela, which is 4 dinars, and the lender admits that he owes 1 dinar. Therefore, he admits to part of the borrower's claim. He must therefore swear that the security was worth 5 dinars in order to be free from paying the extra 3 dinars. The Mishnah now returns to the second case where the borrower must swear that the security was worth 3 dinars and not just 2 as the lender claims. However, since the lender in all of these cases is considered to have been a paid shomel for the security, he must also swear an oath that the security is no longer in his possession. The reason for this oath is that the rabbis were afraid that a shomel might decide he would like to keep the item that was given into his care and pay for it. He therefore claims that it was lost or stolen, so that he will pay for it and keep it for himself. To prevent this, they require the shomel to swear that the item is no longer in his possession. The Mishnah teaches the order in which the borrower and lender swear these oaths. Umi nishba, who swears first? Misha pikadon etzlo, the one who was in possession of the deposit of security before it was stolen or lost. In other words, the lender swears first that the security is no longer in his possession. Why? Otherwise, the borrower might swear that the security was worth the higher amount without having carefully assessed its value, and the lender will then bring out the deposit and show that it was worth less than the borrower claimed. This would disqualify the borrower from future testimony and oath. Someone who has been found guilty of swearing falsely is no longer believed with an oath, and his testimony is also no longer believed. To prevent this, the rabbis required the lender to swear first that he no longer has the security in his possession, and then have the borrower swear how much it was worth. And that is the end of Perek Vav Mishnah Zayin. The last 4 chapters have dealt with biblical oaths, both those that are voluntary and those that are required by law. Chapter 7 deals with oaths instituted by the rabbis. The main differences between rabbinic oaths and biblical ones is that the rabbinic oaths sometimes allow a person to swear and collect, whereas biblical oaths never do so. They are sworn only to free a person from a claim made against him. Also, rabbinic oaths are sometimes required to free a person from a claim that is not definite, but merely a possibility. Biblical oaths are sworn only in response to definite claims. Finally, whereas someone who cannot swear a biblical oath must pay, this is not the case with a rabbinic oath. In other respects, rabbinic oaths are treated as strictly as biblical oaths. Therefore, just as a person must hold a Torah scroll or tefillin when taking a biblical oath, so too must he hold one when taking a rabbinic oath. The rabbinic oaths of this chapter are known as Shevuot the Mishnah, oaths of the Mishnah. They should not be confused with the Hesed oath, which was instituted after the time of the Mishnah and is treated less strictly than the oaths of the Mishnah. We begin with Perek Zayin Mishnah Alayev, chapter 7, Mishnah 1. In the last 3 chapters, again, we learned about oaths that a person is required to swear under biblical law. This chapter deals with a list of oaths that the rabbis instituted. The Mishnah begins by noting a basic difference between biblically required oaths and those instituted by the rabbis. All those who are obligated to swear under biblical law swear and do not pay. Meaning, whenever Torah law requires someone to swear that his claim is true, it is not the claimant who does so in order to collect, but the defendant who swears in order to free himself from paying. According to biblical law, there are only 3 types of oaths imposed by the court. Shevuot modeh b'miksat, the oath of someone who admits to part of a claim made against him. Shevuot shomrim, the oath of a shomer who claims that the object he was given to watch was lost under circumstances for which he is not obligated to pay. And Shevuot edechad, the oath to contradict a single witness who testifies that someone owes money. In all of these cases, the Torah does not allow the claimant to swear the oath and collect. Instead, the oath is given to the defendant to swear and free himself from having to pay. This is learned from the verse that states in Shevuot chapter 22, verse 10, the owner shall accept the oath and he shall not pay. This implies that the defendant is the one who makes the oath and frees himself from paying. But the following people swear and collect payment by rabbinic decree. The sages decree that if one of the following people claims that he is owed money, he may swear to the truth of his claim and collect it from the defendant. All the cases listed here will be explained in the Mishnayot that follow. Hasachir, a hired worker. Hanigzal is someone who was robbed. v'nechbal, someone who was injured. V'shekenegdo chashud al shvuah, someone whose opponent in a court case is not trusted to swear, meaning he is biblically obligated to swear. For example, a single witness testifies against him, but we do not allow him to swear because he is suspected of making false oaths. The rabbis instituted in this case that the person making the claim makes the oath and collects the claim. V'achenvani al pinkaso, and the storekeeper who makes a claim based on what is written in his account book. And the Tana elaborates on each of these cases. Hasechil ketzad, in what circumstances does a hired worker swear and collect? Amar lo teni schari shesh li biyadecha, if a worker says to his employer, give me my wage that you owe me. Hu omer natati, and the employer says, I already gave it to you. Vala omer lo natalti, but the worker says, I did not receive it. Hu nishba v'notel, the worker can swear that he has not been paid and collect his wage. The rabbis instituted this oath because an employer is often so busy paying all his workers that he sometimes thinks that he paid a particular worker when he did not actually do so. The rabbis therefore gave the worker the right to swear and collect. As we learned earlier, when a person makes a claim against someone and the other person denies it completely, the person denying the claim does not have to prove anything. Rather, it is up to the person making the claim to prove that he is owed the money. Therefore, on the biblical level, the employer should not have to pay or even swear, since he denies the worker's claim completely and the worker has no proof. However, the sages made an exception in this case. Since an employer is often busy with his workers and other parts of his business, we suspect that he mistakenly thinks that he already paid this worker even though he did not. Because of this concern, the sages ruled that the employer is not believed. Instead, the worker is believed as long as he swears to his claim. This applies only if the worker demands his payment during the time in which he is supposed to be paid, a day worker before dawn of the following day, and a night worker before sunset of the following day. However, if the worker asks for payment after that deadline and the employer claims that he paid him, the worker cannot swear and collect his wages. We assume that even a busy employer makes sure to pay all his workers before the deadline so as not to transgress the Torah's command against delaying wages in Dvarim chapter 24 verse 15. Therefore, once the deadline has passed, the employer is believed and not the worker, as the Gemara says on page 45b in Masechet Shevuot. Rabbi Yehuda Amel, but Rabbi Yehuda says the worker is not believed to swear and collect unless there is an admission to part of the claim by the employer. Ketzad, how so? Amar lo teni schari 50 dinar sheyesh li biyadcha. A worker said to his employer, give me my wage of 50 silver dinars that you owe me. Vu omer itkabalta dinar zahav, and the employer says, you already received a gold dinar, which is worth 25 silver dinars, and therefore I owe only 25 silver dinars. Since the owner admits he still owes part of the money, he is required to swear a biblical oath that he does not owe the rest of it. This is the biblical oath of someone who admits to part of a claim. In this case, the rabbis took the oath away from the employer and gave it to the worker to swear that he is still owed the full 50 silver dinars he claims, which he can then collect. However, if the employer denies the entire claim, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the worker cannot swear and collect his wages. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the sages did not create a new oath to allow a worker to collect. They only instituted that if there is an obligation to swear for other reasons, the worker should be the one to take the oath and collect, rather than let the employer make the oath and free himself from paying. And the Rav tells us that Halakha does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, not in the case of a sachir, a hired worker, not in the case of someone who was robbed, and not in the case of someone who was injured, as we will see in the following Mishnayot. B'ezrat Hashem b'li neder. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen v'amen.